What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the 615. It's your host, Lee Hillis, and today we are talking Titans Chiefs, which the Titans went to Arrowhead and lost in overtime to the Kansas City Chiefs. And you see our guest today is Chase McCabe from 1025 The Game. And we'll be back with Chase here in a little more than 2 minutes.
Tennessee Titans season's over. Let's call it what it is. Running the ball now.
Covered by Lowe, loses the ball. It's Titans ball. And to Hilliard, he's got room. 30, 20, 10, 5, it's zone.
Go win the Super Bowl for this entire season.
Take a deep breath. Okay, have some fun. You boys do think you're gonna make mistakes. Every one of you is gonna make a mistake. Go figure out a way to make it right.
Wherever you listen throughout the world, it's football time in Tennessee.
Well, everybody, let's go ahead and bring our guest in. Chase McCabe from 1025 The Game. Chase, how are you?
Doing well, Lee. Thanks so much for having me.
So before we dive into everything, that intro this is the first time you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
What were your first thoughts?
Oh, it got me hyped, man. I like it. Very, very cool. You know, following the Titans this season, did kind of bring back some bad memories with that Cincinnati game, but you showed the good parts, so it's all right. But very well done.
And of course, I'd asked somebody and they said that right there is the full two-tone blue experience.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt about it.
But we're going to start off by diving into some NFL news. The big story in the NFL: Frank Reich fired. And Indianapolis named Jeff Saturday, former Colts offensive lineman, interim head coach. What was your first thoughts when that happened?
Well, I wasn't surprised by the Frank Reich hiring. That's just been building, and that's not a very good football team right now. And you know, he fires the offensive coordinator, and whenever an assistant gets fired, you know that the head coach is probably hanging on by a thread, and that's exactly what happened, especially when Jim Irsay is involved. So I wasn't surprised by that news. But then a couple hours later, when ESPN analyst Jeff Saturday is named the interim head coach, I looked at my co-host Derek Mason and went, huh? Like, is that real? I was looking at Adam Schefter's tweet to make sure it had the blue check mark, that it was really him. But sure enough, that's what it is. And now he's got a 30-year-old assistant quarterbacks coach that's going to be the offensive coordinator. Not really sure what Jim Irsay's thinking, but I don't think anyone's ever sure what Jim Irsay's thinking. I like Jeff Saturday. I think he's heck of a player and does a great job on TV, but he has no NFL coaching experience whatsoever. And to me, this kind of feels like a very Hail Mary type move to try and find a Mike Vrabel type head coach, even though you're going and getting a guy that doesn't have a ton of or has no NFL coaching experience. He's coached at the high school level. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out for Indy.
And of course, Titans Chiefs went down to the wire pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But Tennessee couldn't pull it out. As we were mentioning before the show started, when Bud Dupree went down, you knew something bad was going to happen.
Yeah. They could not contain Patrick Mahomes. They did it. I thought they did a good job for the most part in the first half. Now, anytime you'd let him get outside the pocket, that's when he really could hurt you. And you saw that. And he started just bringing the ball down the field at ease. And especially, like you said, when Bud Dupree went down. Because the thing is, like, I wish Dupree could just stay healthy, because I loved the signing when they made it, even with the torn ACL. But it feels like it's always something with that guy that he just can't stay on the field. And I hate that for him. I hate that for the team, because you see how much of a difference he makes trying to get to the quarterback with the pass rush and bringing that pressure between Dupree and Jeffrey Simmons and Danico Autry, and you had Tier Tart in there. You got to love that front seven. Rashad Weaver's done a good job filling in for Harold Landry too. Some of the cast of the characters they've used, but being without Dupree, that hurt.
And if there's another name we could mention, DeMarcus Walker.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of those Mike Vrabel specials that they brought into training camp, and he makes the team and makes a difference, and seems like his type of guy. I mean, I think he loves guys like him and Tier Tart, just these unsung heroes, these names that you didn't know, but when he gets done with them, you will.
And of course, we have to mention the Travis Kelce helmet issue. If you look back 1 week, DJ Moore did the same thing, and it costed them the game.
Yep.
Because it was a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Carolina. Missed the game, first the game-winning PAT. But then when Travis Kelce does it, there's no repercussion. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, here it is right here.
This is how it has to happen.
Yeah. He was not happy there, throwing his helmet. And Mike Vrabel was asked about it. Was asked about Travis Kelce in general. He's asked about the missed PI call on the many tries of the 2-point conversion. And he kind of said he was calculated in what he said, but he basically said, well, Travis gets away with that kind of stuff. The officiating crew was awful. I don't blame the officials for the Titans losing the game. I'm not about blaming the officials, but they certainly missed some pretty key calls at key times, including that one. That should have been an unsportsmanlike, taking the helmet, throwing it like that. They should have called pass interference, or at least had offsetting penalties on the second. I believe it was the second try for the 2-point conversion that put the ball basically on the 1-yard line or the 1-inch line. So Clete Blakeman, who's an official that I typically like, and I typically think his crew calls a good game. They had a bad night Sunday.
They did. And so of course, we're moving this along pretty quickly because you've got another show to get to.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and dive into analytics of this game. Tennessee, of course, Malik Willis didn't have a bad game, but it was not a great game.
Yeah.
Only his second start in the league. 5 for 11, 80 yards.
Yeah, I think Malik, the thing that I have been impressed by is you go back to the preseason. From preseason game 1 to 2, you saw a jump. You saw improvement. From 2 to 3, you saw a jump. You saw improvement. Now in the regular season, even going from his spot, coming in at the end of the Buffalo game, you saw some things he needed to work on. There was improvement from his first start, and then there was improvement from his second start. So he takes the coaching that Mike Vrabel and Todd Downing and that staff are giving him, and I'm sure Ryan Tannehill has been mentoring him as well and teaching him, some things. So I think he's a good student of the game. It's just he is a rookie. He's a 3rd-round pick. He's a project quarterback. He's not ready, but they felt that he gave them the best chance to win, and he's 1-1, and he could very well be 2-0 if a couple of different things go their way. The problem was they just couldn't move the ball in the second half, and I thought that they probably abandoned the run a little too fast at times. Having Derrick Henry on the sideline, at the end of the game, I didn't quite understand that, but they've done that before. So I thought overall, and the other thing too is his receivers didn't help him out because he had two absolute dimes that should have been caught. And if one of those is caught, especially the Westbrook-Akine one, they probably win the ball game.
Exactly. And of course, Derrick had a Derrick Henry type game.
He did, especially in the first half. Second half, not as much, but you got the numbers there: 17 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was unstoppable in that first quarter, and that set the tone for the game. And I thought that if the Titans could just keep that up and keep that momentum, running the football, running it down their throat with Derrick Henry, and even working in Dontrell Hilliard as well, Hassan Haskins, that would have been the key to victory. But that's the thing about the Kansas City Chiefs, that they're just when you think that you've squished them and they've gone away, they come back and beat you, and that's what happened.
And of course, I was live on Sunday night with Chris from Titans and Truth. We both said the same thing. With Kansas City, no lead is ever safe.
No, not at all. And with Patrick Mahomes, no lead is ever safe because that guy can hurt you in so many ways. He can hurt you with his legs. He can hurt you with his arm, of course. He can hurt you with his smarts. He's just a smart quarterback, a smart football player that
no doubt.
He reminds me in a different way, but in a similar way of Peyton Manning, of how he can just read a defense and decipher it right there, change it up on the fly. He's Travis Kelce's a type of player that they don't even have to look at each other and they know what the other one's thinking. You've seen that so many times that he can improvise with him. So that's what happened, and it's tough, but I do feel like you get Tannehill in there, or even if it is Malik Willis, but the Titans get another shot at Kansas City. I like their chances because I thought they matched up well.
And of course, Chigakonkwo, the first offensive play for the Titans right out the gate on the Titans' first series. Huge play for Chig.
Yeah, and I loved it, and I wish Chigakonkwo was a part of the game plan more. Austin Hooper, while he's gotten better the last few weeks, hasn't worked to the way that they had hoped. I think Chigakonkwo can be a starting tight end in this league. He's big, he's long, he's athletic. He's worked on his blocking, but obviously he can be a pass catcher and an athlete just out of the backfield, can run the ball. So that was a beautiful play design and a nice first drive for the Titans. And I just hope that it's a sign of things to come, because I think that Todd Downing needs to use Chigakonkwo a heck of a lot more.
And of course, we've got a couple people that just popped in. One of them, P. Shark, mentioned we just need to stay consistent with the game plan with Malik. Went away from what worked.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's been my biggest concern with Todd Downing this year, is how he adjusts from the first half to the second half. Even with Ryan Tannehill, you've seen them be dominant, control the pace of play in the first half, but then the other team adjusts and they can't seem to find any rhythm in the second half. And that's exactly what happened. You saw a team that could move the ball, and granted, they were kicking. They had to go to Randy Bullock a couple times, but you had 2 touchdowns by Derrick Henry. There's nothing wrong with taking a field goal, but they couldn't even move the ball enough, even in the second half, after getting it at the middle of the field to get in field goal range. So that is a major concern. And I agree with that comment that they got away from what worked, and I think tried to overthink it a little bit.
And then of course, let's head to the defense side, which was dominant for the Tennessee Titans. Starting off, Danico Autry.
Love Danico Autry. When they made that signing last year, the buzz was Bud Dupree, and I liked that one too. But when I saw that they had signed Danico Autry, I was like, that's going to be the signing of the year, because you get him off the Colts. He was a game wrecker for the Colts. Now he's in your defensive front, and he showed it Sunday night. I mean, he was getting to Mahomes, got him down twice. had 3 total tackles, like it says there, and he's just, I think pairing him with Jeffrey Simmons, the fact that he can play inside or outside makes him so versatile and makes him so dangerous. So Danico Autry is one of my favorite guys on that defense.
And of course, the rookie Roger McCreary got his first career interception Sunday night.
Yeah, and that was another draft. That was a draft pick that when they made that pick, I remember looking at everybody going, "Ooh, okay, that's a player right there." And we talked to former Vanderbilt football coach Derek Mason, who was the defensive coordinator last year for McCreary at Auburn, and he didn't have he could have, or he had a ton of nice things to say about Roger McCreary and how he thinks he would fit perfectly with Mike Vrabel in this system. And so far, you've seen it. But that was his breakout game. And whenever you see rookies have a breakout game like that, your hope is that's just a confidence builder and a sign of things to come.
And of course, somebody mentioned that Downing, he does know how to make adjustments. He does. But he does. Me and the rest of Titans fans feel like that Todd Downing knows how to make adjustments. He decides not to.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. But I feel like he's adjusting. Maybe he's adjusting too much. Maybe that's the answer for it. But he gets away from what works, or he tries to get a little too cute at times. I mean, there's been things that, Derek Mason's convinced me that the end around with Chigakonkwo they ran I think it was against the Giants, it didn't work. Yeah. That just wasn't executed right. It wasn't that it was a bad call, it just wasn't executed right.
And
but that happens way too much.
If you go back and look at that play, Taylor Lewan gets blown up.
Yeah, he missed his block. So that's the hard part there. But look, I want it to work for Downing. I don't think Vrabel's going to fire him. I think he's going to be the offensive coordinator next year. I think they could be looking for a defensive coordinator because I think Shane Bowen's going to start get some looks for head coach, and he should.
He deserves to get looks as a head coach.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll happen this offseason, but I definitely think he's going to be in the mix. But it's just there's just something missing, AJ Brown, from this offense, and that they need that. They need a playmaker that's not named Derrick Henry.
And of course, speaking of playmakers, Traylon Burks is expected to come back off of IR this week.
Yeah, that would be huge because I started to see some signs of a guy that was getting it. He was working hard. He was transitioning from a college player to an NFL player. Mike Vrabel said that on Monday in his press conference that he really liked how Traylon had been working. So if they can get him back this week, I think that would be huge, especially if you're going to have Malik Willis again. Give him somebody other than Robert Woods, because, I mean, every defense knows that, okay, 2 is going to be a target. If you put 16 and 2 out there at the same time, I think that's going to really help this kid run the offense that they want him to run and give him more options through the air that, aren't tight ends or running backs.
And there's something I've mentioned. If you put Malik and Derek in that backfield, defenses need to pick their poison.
Oh, I agree.
Because if you have Derek back there and they're keying on Derek, you're going to allow Malik to do what he does. But if you're keying in on Malik, Derek will shred you.
Yeah, it's a two-headed monster. And look, I liked, especially in the first half, the fact that, and I get it, first career start, you don't want to ask Malik Willis to do too much. You're not trying to overwhelm him. But they had more design runs this week with him and more RPOs. And I thought that really worked well. I'll tell you another thing, too. If you're going to have Malik Willis, why not put some packages, and they had a couple of these, where you have Derrick Henry and Dontrell Hilliard on the field at the same time, too, because then you got a 3-headed monster all of a sudden. You could hand it off to Derrick. You can keep it if you're Malik. You can dump it off to Dontrell Hilliard. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do with those 3 on the field, because I believe that Dontrell Hilliard is more of a playmaker than they allow him to be sometimes, because you've seen a couple times that they've made him the focal point of a play. He's burnt you.
So somebody put this right here, saying that there are a lot of rumors of Frank Reich becoming our next OC. What do you guys think?
I don't know if those are necessarily rumors or wishful thinking. I mean, I threw it out yesterday on our show that I'd look at it. Now, the difference is he runs a different system than the Shanahan type system that the Titans basically have based everything from.
The Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, and
Yeah, that tree of things, Arthur Smith. So it would be an adjustment for sure to come in and have him work the offense. The thing that I would be the most intrigued by with Frank Reich is developing a quarterback. And I believe that would certainly help Malik Willis develop into a potential future starter in this league. He's not ready yet. He's starting right now out of necessity, but you can see all the deficiencies that he has that he's going to have to grow out of. And I think a coach like Frank Reich, who I believe is a really good offensive coordinator, and I think the jury is still out on exactly what he was as a head coach, because the guy had 5 different quarterbacks, and you got a meddling owner and Jim Irsay. So, I kind of feel like he's going to get a job as an OC pretty quickly, and then may get another bite at the apple of being a head coach too. But I think it's a long shot because, like I said earlier, I don't think Vrabel's going to make a change at OC.
And then, of course, there's some moves that broke earlier today. The Raiders released DB Jonathan Abrams.
Yeah.
If you're John Robinson, do you go after him?
I'd look at him. I would certainly look at him. I'd kick the tires on it. I don't think it'd cost you a whole lot.
Because we need help in that secondary.
No, I agree. I mean, he and I still think that he's a good player. Look, the Raiders are a dumpster fire. Josh McDaniels has now gotten a second shot at being a head coach, and he's proven that he's just not very good at it. He's a good offensive coordinator, a better offensive coordinator when he has Tom Brady, for sure. But it's just not working there in Vegas. His only saving grace, in my opinion, would be, and you might could file this as hot take, would be if he could talk Brady into coming and playing in Vegas and those two reuniting. I think that's a long shot. If Brady plays next year, which I'm kind of thinking he's going to, but I don't know if it would be with Tampa Bay. I think he'd want to walk into a place with a ton of weapons that he knows that he'd have the resources to go win another ring.
Which Vegas has weapons. You have Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs in the backfield.
Yeah, that's a pretty darn good offense for him to have. And I don't think the defense is half bad. It's just, I think the head coach is the problem.
Yeah.
And Mark Davis, if he thought he could get Brady and take one shot at it, because it would be a one-shot deal, I think he'd do it. I think he'd figure out a way to get rid of Derek Carr and make it work with Brady.
So let's go ahead and head into getting through KC. And we're just going to look at them offensively because they shredded Tennessee offensively. Mahomes threw it 68 times.
Oh, unbelievable. That stat line. And they kept updating it as the game went on. I laughed because Mahomes in his press conference said that he already called his trainer to cancel his Monday morning workout to give the arm a break. But they don't have a run game outside of him. And so they had to rely on throwing the football, and that's what they did. I mean, Andy Reid's not afraid to sling it downfield. So 43 of 68, pretty interesting stat line.
And of course, Mahomes did it on the ground too. 6 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, that touchdown, he earned it. I mean, it's like as soon as he decided he was going to keep it and he broke it, I was like, uh-oh. That's trouble. And then on the 2-point conversion on the third try, he did the same thing. He had to improvise, and he ended up getting to the sticks and scoring 6 or scoring the 2-point conversion there. And it just, like I said earlier, shows you this guy is so dangerous as a football player because he's got the arm, he's got the legs, and he's got the brain to do it all.
And of course, you have his number one weapon right there, Travis Kelce. 10 catches, 106 yards.
Yeah, Kelsey's he's built different, just like Mahomes, but special player, big guy, but athletic. That's some of the catches I've seen that guy make. I go, how does a big dude like that do it? I mean, but he does. And I thought they tried their best to take him out of the equation, but it just didn't work. And that's where, getting some DB help could potentially, be
Like,
good for them.
like a Jonathan Abrams.
Yeah, yeah. So something like that. But Kelsey and Mahomes are just a deadly combo.
And that defense is no joke either. But that whole team runs through that offense. You had the number one third down offense versus the number one third down defense.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing about the Chiefs offense, the numbers may not show it, but the Titans defense deserves a heck of a lot of credit
Oh yeah.
for keeping them in that game. They deserve to win the game. And it was unfortunate that they didn't. I love the clip of Derrick Henry going and shaking every defensive player's hand, thanking him after the game for that effort. But, even though the numbers would say otherwise, I thought they did the best they could at trying to contain that offense, because the fact that it took until the end of the game for them to tie it up, that's pretty darn impressive.
And then, like, if you look at this, Kansas City's usually putting up in the 32 point per game average.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one in the league. Tennessee held them to 20.
Yeah. Look, I thought
on 91 plays.
On 91 plays. That's the stat. That 20 points on 91 plays. The over, I believe, was 65.5, 64.5, somewhere in there. I thought that was an easy bet that the over was going to hit. So I was shocked when it didn't. It was such a low scoring, fun football game. But I thought that you were going to see that offense just crank and really run away with it, and they didn't. And so again, credit to Shane Bowen and Mike Vrabel and that defense.
And of course, as we head to the back end of the show, the new college football ranks drop in about an hour, right?
Yep.
Who are your top four, and who are your two on the outside looking in?
Top four for me. This was a fun debate we had earlier today. So I do have Georgia number one. I don't think there's going to be any argument there. I think they took it out on Tennessee. They kind of felt slighted last week when they were listed third and not number one. So I think Georgia will be number one. I still have Ohio State at two, even though I wouldn't be completely shocked if maybe they put Michigan there. But I think Ohio State probably hangs on to two. Then I have Michigan. And then the one that everybody is debating, is it TCU or is it Tennessee? In the AP poll, they dropped Tennessee to 5, but they dropped 3 spots. I think Tennessee's still going to be number 4. I could be wrong, but I have Tennessee 4, TCU 5, and then I'd have Oregon 6.
I would go right there, but I would actually do this. We knew Tennessee was going to have a hard time with Georgia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Georgia's definitely one. I would go Tennessee at 2. Ohio State at 3.
Ooh.
TCU at 4.
You'd only drop Tennessee 1 spot.
No, I would. Yes, I would only drop them 1 spot.
Interesting.
Even though, because we knew Georgia, we know how Georgia's offense is.
Yeah.
Georgia's offense is dominant and physical.
Sure. And that loss, the committee is going to look at that loss of, you were in Athens, it was 2 touchdowns, they controlled it, but you're playing the defending national champions and number 1 team in the country. So I think they're going to cut them some slack there, because it wasn't a blowout like it was to Oregon. I think dropping them just 1 spot is kind, but I feel like they're going to drop a little bit more. I see why you're thinking that, though, because I think ultimately the path for Tennessee is relatively easy. All I got to do is win out.
Yeah.
And you look at their schedule, they should be able to do that.
Missouri, South Carolina, Vanderbilt. That's Tennessee's last 3.
Yeah, so they should be able to win out. And I think TCU is going to lose to Texas this weekend. I think Georgia's going to win out, which Tennessee needs Georgia to win out, needs them to win the SEC championship at this point. So I think that's likely to happen. LSU, if it's Ole Miss, Alabama still has a chance to get to Atlanta. They would need a lot of help, and obviously would have to take care of business on their own, but they still have a shot.
5 and 6. I would have Michigan stay at 5.
You would have Michigan at 5?
But the surprise one's at number 6.
Okay.
LSU.
That's an interesting one. I think the committee really likes LSU. Their 2 losses Florida State was a close game to start the season, and then obviously Tennessee, but they beating Alabama changed a lot of people's view on them, and the committee had them high last week, having them 10th, which I thought helped Tennessee. So I could see that being a potential. I don't know if they'll put them that high. I mean, their AP had them at 7, so it's very well a possibility that they put LSU there. So you never know.
Well, we're going to get out of here, Chase. Thank you. I know you got to run because you have Preds pregame at 8 Central.
Yep. I got hockey duty, got to get ready for. So a lot of things, a lot of plates spinning, but wouldn't trade it for the world.
Well, Chase, thank you again for taking some time out of your day to
Absolutely
come talk Titans Chiefs.
Yeah, Lee, thanks for having me. Anytime. Love what you do, and happy to help.
Well, everybody, that was Chase McCabe. And as I always say, stay classy and tighten up.